Years later, your story matters and your story can help other people. And we need to use our voices and come together so that we can help. And this next speaker that I'm going to bring up on stage is doing just that. Elaine Benfield is an experienced software leader with over 20 years of expertise in marketing. Following significant life changes during her 50th year, Elaine embarked on a mission to share inspiring stories of remarkable women, crafting narratives that empower and motivate. Based in Atlanta, Georgia, she actively participates in Pride and human rights campaign initiatives and dedicates her life to volunteering with dog charities. I love that. I volunteer at the zoo with manatees. We'll talk about that later. Outside of her professional pursuits, Elaine cherishes moments of travel alongside her family and friends. Please welcome to the stage, Elaine Benfield.
Thank you so much for a great introduction. So hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Elaine Benfield. As you heard, I'm based in Atlanta. So I want to start off by talking about a magical creature. So when it's faced at the end of its life, it bursts into flames and it's reduced to ashes. From those very ashes, it rises again, reborn, renewed, more vibrant and more powerful than before. This creature is a phoenix. The most impressionable image I have is Harry Potter. There's a scene in Harry Potter, if you haven't seen it. I found it so impactful, and somehow a phoenix resonated with me. So every time I watch it, it resonates. And it's basically when you have, if you're not familiar with it, you have Harry Potter's with Dumbledore in his chamber. And you have this phoenix that all of a sudden bursts into flames. There's nothing left but a pile of ashes. And when it seems the phoenix is gone, this tiny little bird, really vibrant colors, comes back to life. And to me, I always thought of it as a symbolizing rebirth and renewal. So the scene really shows, to me, it's a metaphor of resilience. I felt, all of us from rising from the ashes, you can become more resilient. And each of us has that capacity to rise among all the challenges and setbacks we have. So today I want to talk briefly about my journey of resilience, and particularly how I was super excited 2 years ago to turn 50 and all those milestones that came to my life that I was not expecting. So I'm going to try to do this briefly. So in February 2022, my 17-year-old child came out as a trans woman, something I was not expecting. My beloved son was in a car with me and said, I have a friend that's transitioning. And I had that impulse as a mother and said, do you feel you're in the wrong body? And my 17-year-old son at the time said, yes, I do. And at that moment, I knew it was the right path. I knew my child had a lot of challenges growing up and never quite fit in. So that alone blew my world, that I, had to change pronouns. I, of course, was super accepting. I love my child no matter what name my child goes by. But you go through all the doctor's visits, you go through all the changes. I thought that was going to be my milestone challenge of my 50th year. But then in July 2022, my husband of almost 20 years went away, and he ended up coming back. It was kind of interesting. His personality was a little different, very reclusive at the time. And he confessed to me that he cheated on me. Completely came out of the blue. And of course, my response was, so who was she? And the answer was, it was not a she, it was a he. So once again, I thought, there's no way. I was married. This is my best friend of 22 years. How could that possibly happen? So you go through all the trauma of that. You try to figure out what your life is and who is this partner that you truly do not know after all these years. So in October of 2022, my husband at the time then confessed he was cheating on me for over 10 years with hundreds of people during our 22 years together. So of course, yes, I've been tested for everything. Yes, he was safe. Yes, I'm super lucky. But everything of that was just near impossible. And he ended up moving out in December of 2022. And then I ended up, honestly, I think anyone who knows this, I had a dog named Darwin, 13 years of age. He ended up passing away in July of 2022. Probably one of the hardest moments I've had. Even with everything else I had, losing that companion that was on by my side. And I'm convinced he waited to die knowing that I was close to divorce and I was at a better upswing. So in August of 2023, I was officially divorced after 20 years of marriage. I was so excited. I thought, here I am, beginning of my new chapter of life. The challenges didn't stop. Here's what happened in October. Ended up shattering my ankle, ended up having surgery, 35 screws, and I was bedridden for 10 weeks. I thought that was bad enough. So then I'm like, okay, everything that I thought of my stable worlds imploded. I then contracted MRSA, which, if anyone knows, it's a really very severe bacteria infection, and months of antibiotics and PICC line for 8 weeks as well. I found out that all of the infection, all of being on all this medicine, I still was not well. And during all this time, I still was struggling financially. I wasn't receiving any help from my ex-husband, racking up credit card bills, going into debt, going through all my savings just to not foreclose on my house and take care of my kids. So in April, I ended up, being on this regimen with antibiotics. The Georgia infectious disease doctor here ended up basically saying, you need emergency surgery. The metal is killing you. So within days, I end up having emergency surgery. They removed all the pieces of metal because it truly was poisoning me. I thought, there's no way this is going to be there's nothing that could be worse. I'm out for 5 days and I found out my company of 16 years, a leading software company, chose to lay me off. So I thought, at that point, you just go, what the F? Like, you've got to be kidding me. You can't actually make up all these scenarios. Here I am trying to renovate my house. I'm dealing with multiple contractors. I used all my savings to get myself, out of this hole that I knew I could. But here I am, trying to reach a target of selling the house with the boot on, walking around. You cannot make this stuff up. But during all these hurdles, I always remained positive. Some of my friends that have known me my whole life thought, there's no way, you can't be like this when you hang up the phone or after we're done with a call. I am. Because I felt that if I changed my narrative and become the victim, become really depressed, go through all these things, any one person going through one of these things would have crumbled. I looked at it as, I have to keep moving forward. I'm not going to let life take me down. And despite all these challenges, realizing I decided that I wanted to prioritize myself. And as we talked about in the beginning, I decided I wanted to find a way to help bring women together. Love men. Men are part of this narrative as well, but I created a platform called Herstories. It's a collection of inspiring podcasts of women who have navigated life's toughest challenges and with grace and courage. I feel with my story talking about all these topics, divorce, a trans kid, a gay ex-husband, money, you name it, helping children get into adulthood, having a stepdaughter, dealing with the loss of parents. This was my way to create a voice for the community and have women tell their story. So I'm super proud of Herstories. It's a great community of just inspiring people, and men, of course, are a part of our narrative. But I felt it was time to tell the inspiring stories of everyday women. So through all these challenges, I've really learned that I am, resilient, and it's not about surviving, but it's rising from the ashes. I have a new energy about myself. I'm more compassionate. I feel that I'm here to help people tell the narrative. And this is not the path I wanted to create, but I found a way to be stronger, more positive, and just thrive. And my kids are super proud of where I'm at. My friends, my community, my family helped me get to this point. But I'm an example of the need. You need to embrace your own resilience. No matter what challenges you're faced or someone else, you also can be the phoenix that rises. It's so important. And I always think of Harry Potter in that moment And now I see why that moment was so important in the film. I didn't know what my future was holding, but somehow that rising phoenix meant something to me years ago, way before my life needed this. I appreciate you listening. There's so much more I can tell you, but that's kind of the gist. And for more information, you want to hear about these inspiring women and more stories about me and survival and resilience, you can check out herstories.com. So that is me.
Wow,
Great.
Elaine, we have so many things in common. I've had MRSA and MRSE, two chronic infections. I've had the wire with the thing removed. You know, unbelievable. And coincidentally, I've had that same vision about the Phoenix, right?
Isn't that wild?
Trying to just grasp something,
Mhm.
right? And you're right. You
100%.
just
I even went so far as buying Trent. I looked on Etsy and found literally my ex-husband just moved out, and I bought this metal piece that's like metal artwork, and it's a red phoenix. And I'm not a tattoo person, no offense to anyone that is. If I get a tattoo, it 100% is going to be a phoenix. Like there's something about, I see them very often, but there's something about the phoenix and rising from it. And you
yeah,
know,
yeah. You know, I've been there, and I appreciate, that you probably had some time, right? You felt sorry for yourself here and there, but for the most part, you just sucked it up, and you got to keep going. There's nothing else you can do. You just gotta try to win the day. Just do
yeah.
your best for that day, right? And God, I can sympathize with and empathize really with so many of the things that have happened. Yeah, you